2014. To start by taking roll, looks like all members are present. Ask you to stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This be mine?
Yeah, that's yours.
All right, everybody find a comfortable seat. Looks like there's a few still in the front if you're looking for somewhere to sit.
I haven't touched it.
Let's look for the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any conversation? Otherwise, we'll vote to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Tonight, we have no recognition of student, staff, and public. Doesn't look as though we have any seniors here for their civics class. And is there anyone here that wishes to speak to the board that on an item that isn't on the agenda? I don't see anyone. All right, now we're looking for approval of the Part A agenda.
Second.
Any conversation? All right. All those in favor of approving Part A as is, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now I need my glasses. We move into the Part B, which is Roman numeral 4, for those of you keeping track at home.
Isn't that a six?
I'm sorry, 6.
Try to speak wrong.
My glass, well, one of them's fuzzy.
Your glasses are on backwards.
There we go. All right, we're gonna start this off with a bid award for facilities improvement at Indian Mounds, and Mike Berg and Chad Retke are gonna come up and present to us.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 accepts the following bids for facility improvements at Indian Mounds Elementary School, as identified 1 through 19 on our bid, on our resolution, and authorize administration to enter into contracts with the above vendors to accomplish this work.
Second.
moved and seconded, all right. Gentlemen, what do you have for us?
Good evening, Chair Bergstrom and school board members, Superintendent Fujitaki, and administrative team. I'm Mike Berg, Director of Buildings and Grounds for Bloomington Schools, and this is Chad Retke. He's from Krause Anderson, and he is one of our district owners rep. And we just want to talk about the construction projects that are coming up, just say a little bit about each project, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask us.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. So our first project that we have on task here is at the Indian Mounds Elementary School, and is part of the alt facilities upgrades that are going on in the district as we've outlined there in the resolution. What you've got here in the package, we've got the 19 work scopes, as we call them. As part of the bidding, we typically will break down the packages into multiple vendors. As through the construction management process, we do that in lieu of just one vendor as far as a general contractor, and that gives us more competitive control over getting direct pricing with the subcontractors. And so we've bid that out. You can see the attached bid results, and then our recommendations as well there on awarding of the contracts. So we've got, the way we break those down, if you kind of see the scopes there, you'll see, again, like I mentioned, we're trying to get not bidding to one general that's going to take multiple subs and mark them up and bid that out. Through the construction management process, we are breaking it up into individual packages for concrete or for steel or for carpentry, and going direct to the trade contractors and bidding it that way. So there's savings of not getting a markup on a general contractor and all those markups. And so we've bid those out, And we help put together the work scopes with the architects and then competitively bid those out to the open market for pricing, so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Redkey. Questions? Yes, Director Storm.
Mr. Chair, and I am realizing that maybe I should, and I'd like to offer an amendment to the resolution down at the end line where we identified all of the vendors and the amounts, but neglected to put in a project totaling $4,833,595. So I move to amend the resolution to include project totaling dollar amount after authorizes administration to enter into contracts with the above vendors to accomplish this work with project totaling $4,833,595. So that's amount is in the resolution. That,
If the seconder is okay with that, you don't need an amendment, but otherwise you do need to vote on an amendment.
Okay. So we don't need an amendment, but we need Maureen's approval as a seconder.
Right.
I approve as, or I endorse it as spoken, as amended.
Okay. So we're legal with that? Okay.
okay, and I'm sorry, that I was just doing that because in lieu of reading all of the 19 vendors and their total amounts, we would just have that bottom line included in there so that the public and everybody knew that that was the total amount of all of those amounts.
That's quick math you did.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an accountant, you know, so
Did someone check his math?
Yeah, I was gonna say, assuming that you added those all correctly, I will also concur.
Okay. Do we have any questions for this particular one?
yeah, just to follow up a little bit on it, you know, and appreciate Chad and Mike being here tonight. The process that we do is we're going into this big remodeling and so forth with all of the buildings at this time, and we have the monies available to do that. This is the second or third one that we're working on in summer. There's gonna be a couple more in that dollar amount to finish up some of the projects that we have for all-day kindergarten, plus all of the different aspects. Once we go into a building to do some work, it's gonna call for electrical, painting, and so forth like that's identified.
Yeah, at the last board meeting, I believe it was, where we approved Valley View bid projects, and then the Indian Mounds, those are really the two biggest dollar amount projects for this summer. We also have a couple future ones that we're looking at for more of the security and safety parts of that we'll be bringing forward potentially in late April. So that really is the biggest three components for this summer's work. But with tonight and what you've previously approved, that does take care of a good portion of this summer's work. Did that answer your question?
Thank you,
Yeah.
you're right.
Oh, okay.
All right. Any other questions before we vote? All right, all those in favor of this, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that carries. Gentlemen, I'm gonna ask you to just stay put. We have a bid award for masonry rehabilitation at Jefferson High School. Who wants to read that one?
I can. Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 accept the city's Masonry Restoration, Inc., St. Michael, Minnesota bid of $198,470 to repair and restore masonry at Jefferson High School, and authorize administration to enter into contract to accomplish this work.
Was it 191 or 198?
I got one there. Mine says 191.
191, okay. I thought I heard you say 198.
Oh, sorry.
We have,
Oh, yeah, second.
okay, moved and seconded. All right, anything you can help us understand about this? Looks pretty straightforward.
Sure, I'll take this one. It's the bid award for the masonry rehabilitation at Jefferson High School. Pretty basically, what we're going to be doing is going to be doing tuck pointing repair, brick replacement on the two west towers by the gyms and the chimney stacks also are gonna be taken care of. And this is gonna help repair the water intrusion and the cracking walls that we have now.
Questions? Director Sorum?
Mr. Chairman and Mike, and then the bids that were from 191 to 520, that's quite a spread for the vendors doing maybe the same specs or something. Is there any explanation for that?
Well, tuck pointing by its nature is a complex thing to bid. It's not like you can just count widgets, if you will, and price them up. There's a lot of, the way they look at the amount of scaffolding they need, how they're gonna do it, and their production rates can really vary. It's really a tough thing to quantify, and so generally you're gonna see numbers that are kind of not real tight when there is that tuck pointing type of work. So they do range, and that wouldn't be surprising to me. I mean, if you take out really the top couple there, there's really not that much of a spread between the 6 or 7 bids. But in general, it's, you know, you can look at it a lot of different ways, and it's how they look at it, how much they feel they can get for production on saw cutting out joints and pointing them back in, and how much scaffolding, and so.
And, one of the companies we know was an out-of-state, so lots of times they just throw in a bid, they don't even come and look at it. So they'll just throw in a bid, and if it's taken, it's taken, if it's not, it's not. And then there's one that has, the highest one has a history of high bids from what we understand from our consulting firms, so they just thought this was pretty normal, just like Chad said.
And that brings up a good point, because a lot of these you probably have had some history with. Probably, I don't know if the district so much, but Cross Anderson has. And so you pretty much know the reliability and the credibility of the firms themselves. So that's taken into consideration too, even though it's a low bid. The specs are pretty much understood from each of the vendors, but then however they play the game.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So how confident are you that they'll be able to come in at that price? Or are they locked in?
That's it's a lump sum contract that they're locked into for the scope of work as identified.
So if it ends up going over, they sort of eat the
They're
excess?
at risk.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Keep you up there, gentlemen. We have another one, a bid award for fire alarms at Olson Elementary and Olson Middle Schools. Who would like to read this one?
Can do it.
Director Oliva.
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 accepts the following bids for fire alarm replacement at Olson Elementary and Olson Middle Schools. Northland Mechanical Contractors, Inc., New Hope, Minnesota, bid of $138,900. Simplex Grinnell, Plymouth, Minnesota, bid of $241,800, and authorizes administration to enter into contracts with the above vendors to accomplish this work.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Anything you can share with us on this one, gentlemen?
Yeah, this project for this summer is it's the total replacement of the fire alarm system that is at the Olson campus for the middle school, elementary. Along with that, the mechanical work is for a lot of the existing dampers in the mechanical systems. The way the buildings were originally configured and rated, a lot of the corridor walls have to be rated, and thus they need fire dampers for any penetrations, and they need to be connected to the fire alarm system. By recategorizing under current codes, a lot of those can go away, and they don't need to be hooked up, but they need to be dealt with in some way. And so part of the mechanical work is to correct the ones that are deficient, and then hook the other ones up that need to be hooked up to the fire alarm system on the mechanical side. And then the fire alarm number there is for the total replacement of the existing system, panels, end devices, everything.
Any questions, comments? All right, we'll move to vote. Those in favor of this, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have one more for these fine gentlemen. This is a bid awards, generator at Oak Grove Middle, Jefferson and Kennedy High Schools, and some general construction. Who would like to read that one in?
Be it resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 271 accepts Messinger Construction Company, Inc., St. Paul, Minnesota bid of $69,000 to provide general construction for generators at Oak Grove Middle School, Jefferson High School, and Kennedy High School, and authorizes administration to enter into a contract with the above vendor to accomplish this work.
Second.
Moved and seconded. What can you tell us about this one?
Yep, this goes along with a part of the project that we've previously approved, or the district has previously approved for the generators themselves. This is for, it's termed general construction, but this basically, the generators themselves are going on the roofs of 3 buildings. And so this includes the roof curbs that have to be added for support. One of the buildings, there's a little bit of steel work, and then there's some inside drywall work at the 3 sites. So most of it is roof patching and getting the structure there to accept the new generators at the 3 sites, but there's a little bit of other miscellaneous work kind of lumped in together. And so this will get us ready for the generators, and then there's one more small portion of this that we have to get squared away, which is the mechanical gas piping for that project, and then that project will be complete, or all bid out, I guess I should say, and ready to go. That'll be brought back in the future.
Any questions? Just one, these generators are backup power supplies in case of power outages, bad weather, whatever?
Yeah, in relation to the technology for these buildings.
Sure.
Yep.
All right. All those in favor of this, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. I think that does it. Do we have any more for? No? Thank you
Yep,
very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the Part B agenda is our number 5, the integration plan approval. It's our new 3-year plan. Eric Melby and Dina Wade-Ardley will come up and share with us all the hard work and effort that's gone into this.
Chair Bergstrom.
Yes.
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 271 approves the 2014-2017 Achievement and Integration Plan and its budget for the 2014-2015 school year in the amount of $1,840,292. In the event of a decrease or increase in funding from the Minnesota Department of Education, the contents of the plan and corresponding budget will be adjusted accordingly. Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Okay, Eric and Dina,
Hello.
how are you this evening? And
Wonderful.
it's nice to see your smiling faces.
Nice to see you, Chair Bergstrom, board members, Superintendent Fujitaki. We'd like to tell you a little bit about how you got this plan in front of you, and then we'll be willing to answer some questions if folks have them. But a little bit of history is the legislature last session, not this current one, but last session, passed a new achievement and integration law. And Bloomington qualifies for achievement and integration aid because we have 2 racially identifiable schools and we're a racially identifiable district. So the law got passed. It was last summer, basically almost summer when that happened. And the law required that all districts receiving integration funds had to submit a new 3-year integration plan by March 15th, which I realize we passed. We got an extension from MDE because of this board meeting happening when it happens tonight. And of course, when a new law like that gets passed regarding education things, the Department of Education has to then do a lot of work kind of interpreting that law and coming up with recommendations on how districts can implement the new law, guidance, templates for forms, things like that. Should also be noted that that all happened with MDE doing their best work, but it takes time, so it was really late fall of 2013 when we started to get guidance on how to put together a new integration plan, achievement and integration plan, I should say, with really the bulk of the information from MDE coming in January of 2014, and then there were templates to put the plan together, and those came out the last day of February. So as you can tell, just kind of by what I'm telling you, it's a very condensed time frame to get a lot of work done. Should also be noted that the new achievement and integration plan is intended through law to fit together with the World's Best Workforce legislation, which you've certainly heard about and the board is going to be doing some work with. So, because of that compressed and somewhat out of order timeline, we have presented you, the board, tonight with the plan that really carries forth the work that we already have in our current integration plan, which was supposed to run from 2012 to 2015. So we're right in the middle of it, basically. So what you've got talking about for next year is what we have been working on with a few new things added into it. But we felt it would be disingenuous and frankly disrespectful to our stakeholders in our community if we were to kind of force together a 3-year plan in that condensed time frame without fully engaging everybody and fully getting into our data. So that's why you have a plan that looks like the plan that you have. It should be noted, I noted some changes. The changes would be kind of 3 that I'll point out would be reviewing our transfer policy, starting a welcome center, and continuing and expanding on our virtual or technology integration that we've been started this year between Valley View Middle and Olson Middle. In the meantime, we will fully engage our community, students, staff, stakeholders for feedback on our integration plan, as well as the World's Best Workforce Plan, at the same time doing a deep dive into our data around student achievement, particularly in relation to student achievement as it relates to kids who have been in activities funded through integration money. After we do all that work within the next year, we fully intend to submit an amended plan to MDE for years 2 and 3 of this integration plan. This feels like a more thoughtful way to do this and fits into the requirement that we tie our work into the World's Best Workforce work. Also should be noted that we vetted this plan with top leadership at the department, and so long as what we're doing fits within the letter of the law, which it does, they were excited about the engagement we'll be undertaking with our community and the deep data dive. Want to also note that a big change in the legislation is right in the name of it, achievement and integration plan. That's new. There's a huge tie into student achievement through integration funds at this new plan. We need to create goals, which we've done in here, which will reduce our achievement gap from where it currently stands by 50% by 2017. That's what MDE and the legislature have laid out for us. So we've got that in there. So really our efforts as we study and move forward really need to focus on moving the needle for kids' achievement and reducing the achievement gap. In the last month and a half, almost 2 months probably, Dina, I, with help from others, some you see sitting behind us, have been engaging various groups in the district, including the Community Collaboration Council, the District Diversity Advisory Committee, Latino Parent Association, Office of Educational Equity folks, family engagement folks, district leadership, and many of you on the board I've had conversations with, and I appreciate those conversations. To get feedback on what we've put together for you here tonight. With that, I'm asking that you would approve our new plan, which meets the letter of the law, while you fully understand that we're going to continue a lot of work on this plan over the next year, engaging stakeholders, diving deep into data, and revising the plan for years 2 and 3.
Great, thank you so much for coming this evening. Do we have questions, comments? Yes, Director Corman.
Well, you know, with this big plan that we have in our hands for the last week, of course there were questions, lots of questions, and because there were so many questions, I was just so glad that we were able to meet with you and just go through those, through a lot of different points. Because obviously we were not going to have the time for that today. You know, we can spend here a whole day, a couple of couple of days just talking about it. But to me, I can just say that, you know, after having the conversation with Eric and with Dina and reading the plan, what I'm taking with me is the confidence of knowing that we are in good hands. That I can see that we are in good hands. That you know, that this plan, it's not the final plan, and that's one of the things that I was concerned at the beginning. You know, if we don't have enough time, and you know, we're just gonna go through this really fast and try to fill everything that we can. But no, this is a plan like what you said to us before. It's something we're gonna continue to work on together, and together meaning working as the board members that we are, working with the community, working with the administration, you know, being the real teamwork that we are supposed to be in the school district. So I do appreciate that. I do appreciate the, you know, the work of all the people that were involved in this, and especially the work that you two have been doing. I think you're doing an amazing job. And the other thing I wanted to say is the Welcome Center. I'm so glad to see that now in paper. You know, I've known Dina for a number of years, and I know I've heard before the idea of the Welcome Center, and I'm just so glad to see that happening, to see it in the paper now. I do want to call for some, as we're going through this process, to continue to keep in mind some considerations that are related to the parent engagement part of this document. I do see that we have a lot of different, probably a lot of different positions or goals for parent engagement, and that makes me wonder if we, as a board, we need to redefine what family, community, parent engagement is for us and for our school district, especially considering that things are changing, you know, all the stuff that has been happening with the legislation since last year, and more stuff that's coming with the ELL bill that also addresses parent engagement. So this is a big, huge piece. The other one I want to touch is the role of the Office of Educational Equity, because in all this, because, you know, OEE has been around for several years, but the needs of the needs in Bloomington have changed a lot too, and I'm talking about education, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, OEE had a role in the district, but as time is changing and you know, we're seeing more diversity, and it's growing, and it seems like maybe we need to take another look at, okay, are we also moving along with what's happening? And then I don't know, I wonder if we also need to take a look at, you know, what OEE was in the past and what OEE means now, considering that we almost have 50% students of color in Bloomington. So that includes, you know, do we need to take a look at goals again? You know, what's the goal? What's the purpose of the Office of Educational Equity? And how is the Office of Educational Equity it's going to be working with the school district and with the school board, etc. So just a few things that I'm going to keep in mind as we're going through the whole year. I think that's all I have for now. I mean, like I said before, I really think we're in good hands. I think we're moving along, and I have a very positive feeling about all this. Great things are coming for our kids especially. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Anyone? Yeah, Director Storm.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bergstrom. I just wanted to compliment Dina and Eric on this also. I'm trying to think back how far it's been since we started this integration plan. I don't know if our first one was 2012 or if we've had some before that
2000.
that we've worked on, and
March of 2000 was our first.
is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I should certainly remember that, but anyhow, because we helped work on it, and to keep coming up with a 3-year plan, every year it seemed that there were changes in it that we had to include, but rather than change the overall plan, We just took notes, and then we put them into the next 3-year plan that came along. And so now that we're really getting into some of the legislature and funding and a whole variety of things, World's Best Workforce. You know, the 2012 to 2015 plan was pretty well established, but then all of a sudden the other twists and turns came up. And so I know we're going to be going ahead, and kind of what has been said before is things are changing, and we're on the right track. And we've had a good start with our Pathways to Education and then introducing this. And I want to compliment Dr. Heisted too on introducing all of the different charts and graphs. I love charts and graphs. That's what I used to do in my business world. And so it's fun to see the different statistics that can be shown graphically as we're improving, and to be able to use those and understand a little bit more where some problems might be or where some positive results would be is very helpful to the community. And for them to see this whole thing in this presentation is definitely going to be beneficial for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And just one other comment. I am very excited. I think this is an exciting time in Bloomington. I've said it to a number of board members I've spoken with. I think we're primed with World's Best Workforce. Some districts are seeing this legislation and flinching, and I think we're embracing it and saying this is going to help guide where we're going and what we're going to do. And to me, that's exciting. And this is me excited. So I mean, take a picture on TV. But I think it is exciting. So thank you, Mr. Sorum.
Yeah, Director Steigoff.
I just wanted to say really quickly, I know you guys had a really short timeline, so I know you put in a lot of extra hours to get this done, and so thank you for your hard work. I know you gave up probably this last weekend for sure, since board members were contacting you to discuss it. So I just want to say thank you for all of your efforts to get this done to meet the deadline that was given to you by the Department of Ed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Oliva.
Integration in the schools has been a hot topic since the 1890s, from what I was reading.
And will be.
And it will continue to be. What I like about this plan that we have in front of us, well, the concern that I always have is we don't want to put our students or our teachers in a position where they say, well, I didn't get into that school because they had to make room for black kids. That teacher only got a job because they're black and not because they're qualified. And when I read this plan now, I see that we are on the right track with this.
We have never done that, excuse me, never.
Yeah, I fully, I fully believe that we have never done that. What I want to look at is perceptions. And I want to assure people that if they read through this, they will not come away with that perception. That is absolutely not what is happening. We are not interested in busing kids just for the sake of busing kids. What we're interested in is in looking at ourselves as a district and saying, here's some trends that we see. Why is this? Maybe we need to provide more support. Maybe we need to provide more encouragement over here for people to take advantage of the opportunities that we have in our district. And so when I read through the plan the way that it reads now, I think that this is a great plan. I think that what we're doing is absolutely what we should be doing. And so I just wanted to throw out that I support what I see in front of us.
Appreciate that and appreciate your feedback.
Any other comments, questions? All right, I just have a couple things I'd like to add. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for responding so quickly to so many very good questions. I'm not sure if the general public knows just how bright my coworkers are. A lot of really good questions came through. I had the privilege to see all of them. And I'm thinking and I'm feeling through conversation with Eric primarily that these questions, if they weren't answered all in their entirety, they were working on it. So I know that I had a question today, and my question is answered in this new document. So that's how quickly things move. This is a fluid document. It's not etched in stone.
Right.
It's meant to be worked on as we go. So what you see in writing here may not be what you see in the fall. And I appreciate all the energy and the effort that the district has put into this. So thank you all very much for what you're doing, and we look forward to continued success in this.
Thanks.
All right, I think we've said what we came to say. I appreciate you guys coming. Let's take this one to a vote. All those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now we move on to number 6 here, and Part B, and that is the Dimensions Academy High School update. Assistant Superintendent Chris Lennox and Erin Boltic. Did I get your last name right,
Yes,
Erin?
you did.
Great, we'll present to us. Anyone want to read this one?
No resolution.
Oh, there isn't, you're right. It's the only one that doesn't have.
We're trying to save you a little time.
Great.
Well, thank you, Chairman Bergstrom, Superintendent Fujitaki, and members of the board. We're here this evening, myself and Erin Boltic, who's our Director of Gifted and Talented Programming, to share information with you about the Dimensions Academy High School. You may or may not know that the planning for DA High School began over a year ago. And while Erin will share some of the specifics regarding the program, as board members, I wanted to make sure you understand why we would be adding a program like this and how it fits into our larger strategic plan. DA High School ties directly into 2 of our strategic directions, specifically developing educational programs in response to research, best practice, and market conditions, as well as strengthening partnerships that expand learning opportunities and enhance our image. Currently, students in Bloomington begin Elements program at second grade. The Elements program then leads into the Dimensions program, which runs through 8th grade. The addition of a high school component simply makes sense from both a learning opportunity as well as best practice for our students. In addition, partnering with Normandale Community College allows us to both strengthen our partnerships with higher education as well as enhances our already strong image as a leader in gifted education. This also fits nicely with our Pathways to Graduation. DA High School program is an example of a pathway that students can follow as they make their way through the Bloomington Public Schools, fulfilling our district mission to be an educational leader, developing in all of our learners the ability to thrive in a rapidly changing world. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Erin, who can give you a little bit more detail about the DA High School program.
And I know some of you are newer to the board, so for those of you who aren't, and this is maybe a little repetitive, but I wanted to just give you a quick overview. I'm newer to the district. This is my 2nd year. I am so impressed when I look at the district and their timeline and the ways that they've grown over the years. So way back in 5-6, starting programs and then continuing every year to add on as their additional need was seen, then we expanded. So there's been a lot of growth, and it only follows that at this point, now that we've got kids coming out of a DA at the middle school, that we are moving that next step to plan programs that will meet their needs going into high school. So I do feel like there should be a little honorary chair here with Richard Cash. He and many others did a lot of the groundwork, what I would say the hard work. I feel a little guilty coming in for the fun part because this is where we really get to see the faces of the students as they move into this program. I included in your packet a narrative from one of our candidates. And I don't know if you had a chance to read it. If you haven't yet, you'll have to take some time. If you're like me, I was amazed that the words came from an 8th grader. And when you read that, you can tell that that program is going to help that student thrive. She needs that program, and her dreams are going to come alive. So her name is Savannah Salato. I did get her permission to share that was her narrative. And all of the narratives I read were just really amazing and very absolutely confirmed that this type of programming is needed. So I'm excited to share that with you. So in terms of the overall DA program, if we look at, the students, it is for ninth graders next year. And then the following year, the plan is to grow it for those ninth graders to go into a 10th grade year. It's a 2-year program. After that point, the students then can continue on with PSEO. And through the DA High School and PSEO, that's where they have the chance to earn an associate's degree by the time they graduate from high school. The curriculum is, it is accelerated. It's certainly not what typical ninth graders would do. The college has not changed the curriculum for these kids. It's their college level curriculum. So these kids are working at a college level. And they will be doing that the first 2 hours of their day and then heading back to their prospective high schools for the rest of their courses. They will be taught by the Normandale Community College professors. There's been a lot of attention to choosing those professors, and I think at this time that all the professors have also taught either middle school or high school at some point in their past. So they have a very clear understanding of students at that level, as well as students who are working at a college level. And then the final one other goal that we had in creating this was really to attract and retain the resident and non-resident students. I know before the letters went out inviting students to the program, I had several applicants calling saying, several of our out-of-district applicants saying, don't want to put pressure on you, but we're also looking elsewhere. We've also got our name into another program, and they've got a deadline too, and when can we know? And so I do know that some of those families were looking elsewhere. And it was really exciting that of the 24 kids we invited, we only lost one of them. All the others are staying. So it's definitely a program that is retaining our students and attracting new ones. So you can see here we had 33 highly qualified applicants. We had 24 seats. And the 24 seats that was due to the lab requirement at Normandale Community College. They could only, for safety's sake, accommodate 24 students in their labs. So the 24 students were invited. Like I said, there was one that declined, and so we were able to take one more student in. The other 8 are on a wait list. You can see the ethnicity, the gender. We did have far fewer females who applied than males, so that ratio reflects that. And then what's exciting about the bottom section there is that we did attract one new student. We kept all except one of our currently open enrolled students. And there were a couple students who had moved into our district last year because they heard of our plans for DA High School. They chose Bloomington Public Schools. In addition to that, I just want to add we had a winter survey that we just did, and I've been looking through the results of that. And the parents in that survey were asked if they thought the DA High School would be a program that they would place their own child into. And of those who responded, 96% of them either said yes or maybe, and only 4 people, or 4% of the people said no. So we have a lot of people who aren't even to this point who are already looking at that as a possibility for their students in the future. So you can see then I included the course schedule proposal, and this is a draft. The courses are all decided in terms of, like if you see on Thursday, it shows the lab would be all on Thursday. That could change to a Tuesday. The Normandale Community College is solidifying that, but you can see over the 4 semesters the classes that the students will be taking. Go through those. Yep.
Mr. Bergstrom and Aaron, so now this is an established course schedule that all of the candidates know that that's what they'll be taking, what they want to take there.
This is the STEM program that we've designed for them. They will not be mixed with other Normandale Community College students, so they'll be their own cohort, and they'll move through these 4 semesters of courses.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
question. So to get the associate's degree at the end, you would do the DA, 9th and 10th grade, and you do PSCO, 11th and 12th. Now, students wouldn't necessarily have had to have taken DA to do PSCO, is that?
Correct.
So how's that, I guess I don't know exactly how PSCO works, so then would they, if you sign up for that, you'd have to find then, quote-unquote, regular Normandale class, that was the next level up? I mean, is that how it works?
These students, if they wanted to continue on PSEO, yes, they would take the subsequent
And they would be
classes.
able to do
It
that.
could be done at Normandale Community College, it actually could be done at the U of M, there are multiple, kids could go wherever they would like.
Okay,
in
and they would
terms of
be able
PEO,
to,
PSEO.
quote-unquote, level up, I guess?
Right.
Okay. I think it sounds like a great idea.
And our counselors or the Normandale counselors would be able to help those students figure out what the next course is that they need to take in that series?
Yes,
Okay, so they don't end this opportunity and go, gee whiz, what do I do?
what do I do
next?
now,
Where do I
right,
go?"
no, we will be very proactive in helping them in that way.
Do we have a breakdown somewhere of Kennedy students and Jefferson students?
Yes, on my iPad. I think that, can I get back to you on that? Is that the best thing?
Yeah, that's fine.
One last thing, I know a lot of times the college courses will be like math for one day for 3 hours. And so it looks like they've sort of said, okay, well, since you're high school, normally you come here every day. So is this the same 15, 20 course just split into 4 days versus if you were a Normandale student, you might only have it twice a week? Is
Right.
that kind of how they
It's
did
the
it?
same, it's the same number of lecture hours and lab hours, but it's designed differently because our students are going to be there every day.
Okay.
Yes.
And just so people know, it's not a dumbed-down curriculum.
No.
And then they come back to their school
Mm-hmm.
for whatever electives or whatever other courses they want to take.
Right. Language arts, civics, electives, foreign language.
And then how does transportation work?
I've been meeting with transportation, and the students will go to their regular high schools, and then we will have a shuttle going from each of the high schools, or maybe one shuttle going to both high schools and then on to Normandale Community College. And the only time that wouldn't work is there will be some days when Normandale's in session and Bloomington isn't, and vice versa. So on those days when Bloomington is not in session, then there'd be a shuttle to their houses, or a route to the students' houses and then to the college.
And then if this program should grow,
Mm-hmm.
and we have 24 on the waiting list, do they start usually typically in the fall, or would there be some other semester or whatever that they could? And I'm just, thinking further on.
So when you mean grow, are you thinking from 9th grade to 10th grade, or are you wondering about 2 sections at a given grade level?
Both, yeah. At the time the 9th grade is successful, it moves on to 10th grade, then another batch of 24 or whatever it is falling into that place.
Right. So for 2014-15, that will be a cohort of 24 at 9th grade. Those 24, we expect to be successful and would want to move into a 10th grade. Then we'd bring a new batch of 9th graders in. If there'd be a point in time where we have 60 qualified candidates, then we'd talk to Normandale Community
Talk to
College and
Normandale,
say,
yeah.
hey, you got another classroom? So we're open to creative solutions if those things happen.
Yeah, Tom?
Is there anyone else doing this? Any other districts
No.
around here?
Nope,
Even
we
any-
are pioneering.
So any other states or anything? You haven't seen this anywhere?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay.
And then can we get a copyright on this so that no other districts can do it? They have to come to
Franchise.
Bloomington in order to step in? I'll leave that up to you, the legal department.
Wouldn't want other children to have the same experience.
No.
Any other questions? I just had a couple. Is there a minimum number of students that you need to get I know that you said that 24 sounded like a full class. So just to piggyback on Director Storm's comment, if we really want to ramp it up and we're getting there, is there a minimum amount going into next fall? Is it 17, 19?
Yeah, we had, I'll take that one. When we looked at this, obviously, we want to make sure we're maximizing revenue expenditures. We don't want to overspend or spend ourselves into a hole. That said, one of the things that we anticipate happening, a waiting list is a blessing and a curse. I mean, there's some not getting in, but you're already getting attention. Hey, what's going on in Bloomington, and how might we access that? Obviously, we'd work with Normandale. We'd work with Rod Zivkovich, our finances, and then potentially come back to the board and say, here's what we would propose. Where's that water line for us to be able to make that run? But we anticipate, as this gets going, frankly, more interest. So we're really thinking that this will grow into the future, and we may have to have conversations about controlling our growth more than seeing it wane.
Well, that's a good problem if we can
Yeah,
have
absolutely.
such a thing. So the next and last question is, in high school, let's say, for instance, my son is lingering between classes. There's usually somebody there to help them along. Don't you have somewhere to be? Is that person going to be, or a person going to be with these students at Normandale? Yeah, because I know that, when you're paying for your own tuition, if you get to class on time, you get to class on time. It's a little different feel. But for the high school students who have a shuttle to get there and then have to get back on that shuttle to get back here, will there be somebody that says, come on, guys, get moving?
Yes. We've planned for a staff member to make sure that they accompany the students, that we take them along for those very reasons, to make sure that they can find their way, that they're feeling comfortable, and really on both sides, not only to shepherd them a little bit, to make sure that our parents who are sending their ninth graders to a college campus are comfortable with the fact that we're facilitating that, and we'll take care of them, make sure for their safety as they do that as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now we're moving on to number 7 here, and I see Chris Lennox has graciously stayed where he is. We're looking at fees for the 2014-2015 year. Director Bennett.
Be it resolved, the School Board of Independent School District Number 271 approves the following fees for the 2014-15 school year: student athletic, student non-athletic activity, student instrument use, student parking, and student adult activity admissions as per the attached fee list.
Second.
Moved and seconded. What have you got for us there, Chris?
Thank you again, Chair Bergstrom, Superintendent Fujitaki, and members of the board. The resolution before you includes information about slight fee increases, which are $5 to $10 to our student athletic and activity fees for the 2014-15 school year. These increases are correlated with the cost of allowing for an online credit card payment system, and detailed information about fees by sport or activity was provided in your packet. I do want to call out that we are not recommending increases for student instrument use, student parking, or admission to athletic or activity events. So just the athletics and activity fees, those are the only ones being adjusted. So at this time, administration is recommending approval of the resolution.
Okay. Comments, questions? Director Bennett?
So the amount that we're raising, is that going to cover all of the added expense from the credit card?
Yeah, according to, I work closely with the Finex folks, both Rod Zivkovich and Kimigate, on pulling all that together, and so they helped us set those fees to make sure that those costs would be covered.
Okay. And also, I looked at said that the cap would be $20 per student. Is that
Sure,
for the
yep.
entire year
Yes.
of activities?
Well, it's an increase of, so the cap went, an athletic fee cap, individual students did increase $20. That's a maximum of $430 for the year. And then, per family, it was the increase, the $20 increase brought it to 730 per year.
Okay, so if they're taking like 6 or 7 sports?
Correct.
That's the
You
max
have
they
a-
pay?
You have a maximum, you wouldn't go over that, correct.
Any other comments, questions?
You know, I probably should have asked this earlier, but one of the things I was just thinking about is, if we take into consideration, if you have one kid now, and says, you know what, I can't do it, so your participation drops by 1, now it's gonna take 10 kids to replace that $100 fee that would have been there. I mean, so I'm guessing that we take that into consideration too.
Definitely taken into consideration. Obviously, in the ideal world, we would just have everyone participate, no fees. What we did on this one, really the increase specifically here is about families requesting the convenience of using a credit card. So that's really, we're not adjusting for any other reason than for that. And just trying, as Director Bennett asked, just to cover the cost of that. We're not trying to raise. The other thing, and it's been asked before, but just to reiterate, we do have funds set aside, both through the high school league and locally, to assist families who are in need or request help paying those fees.
So we aren't anticipating that this should affect enrollment or participation? Okay.
No. Great.
So, yeah, actually, I got another question. So you said that we have programs in place to help those with fees.
Correct.
Is there a maximum on that allowed money, or is it pretty much?
No, I don't know that there's a maximum amount allowed. I think based on a family's need and the number of activities or sports they want to.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning like
engage
per family, I mean like in total, like if there's
in. Oh,
maybe 200 kids,
yeah,
the
no.
ply we run out of, that pool runs out or something.
Yeah, we could pull that information. I'd have to think. In the fall, I know we bring you a resolution, usually for the State High School League. There's money available for that. I'd have to go back and see what those amounts are. But in fact, I'll make a note and we'll forward that information in terms of what's available for, in those funds for families.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions?
Just in a general sense, I think, as Chris was alluding to, I think there's scholarship funding available for just about all of the district's programs, so that if there are families in need or need assistance or something like that, there are programs available from a variety of sources to help them so that they can participate in whatever the activities, programs are that we have. Right?
Correct. Yep. Yes, there are.
And we aren't allowed to just charge a direct fee to someone for using a credit card, correct? Like, so we can say, well, the fee's $100, but if you use a credit card, there's a $15 convenience fee.
Yeah, we have
can't
not.
do that.
We have not done that.
All right. We need to move to vote on this one, although I noticed that we have one seat that's open just yet, so I'm not sure how we would record that.
Take a roll call vote then.
All right, and we'll go for a roll call vote. Since you know what, I'll start, if I can, down at my far right with Don. We're looking for a yea or nay on this resolution.
Yay.
Aye.
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 Aye?
Aye.
And Director Corman is absent for this vote. So, all right, this resolution passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we move to number 8, which is the 2014-2015 vendors and rates for district group insurance. And that would, yes.
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District Number 271 approves the vendors and rates for district group insurance for the 12-month period from July 1, 2014 to June 30, 2015, per the attached memo number 1. Preferred 1, third-party administrator for self-funded health insurance. Preferred 1 insurance company, PIC, reinsurance for self-funded health insurance. Fairview, employee Assistance Program, EAP. The Health Equity Health Savings Accounts Provider. Delta Dental, the third-party administrator for self-funded dental insurance. ING Long-Term Disability LTD Insurance. ING Life Insurance. Corporate Health Systems, Inc., Benefits Consultant. IMED Vision Care, Voluntary Vision Program. ING Voluntary Accident and Wellness Program. ING Critical Care Insurance Program. UCare, Medicare Supplement. Further be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District Number 271, per its organizational meeting of January 13th, 2014, authorizes the superintendent or his designee to execute documents within the authorized budget as appropriate to the daily operations of the school district. This includes contracts, one, for which the school board has previously approved rates, and two, which have been reviewed and approved by the district legal counsel and the district insurance consultant.
We have a
second.
All right. We have Executive Director of Human Resources, Mary Burrows, here to help us understand this.
Explain the whole thing.
Chair Bergstrom, Superintendent Fujitaki, and members of the board. Before I jump into the resolution, I do want to give a recognition and a thank you to our Labor Management Committee. They are composed of a representative from each of our bargain units. We meet at least once a month, sometimes more than that, depending on the issues that we may be discussing. They do a lot of work in reviewing our insurance, our plans, and giving feedback on the direction that the district as a collectively would like to go. So I do want to say thank you for the work that they do and recognize the effort that they do in that. It's very important work. So jumping into the resolution, all of our vendors are the same as the previous year. We are fortunate that we don't have, as far as fees, any additional fees. They're staying at the same rate that they did the previous year. With the exception of our PIC group, they actually decreased their fees about a -1%, so not a lot of money, but it is a decrease. So we are not changing any of our vendors at this time. So at this point, I'm recommending approval of the resolution.
All right, thank you, Mary. Questions, comments? All right.
But I guess
Director
maybe
Storm.
just a bit of history, sorry, Mr. Chair, but in the past, I think it identified the fact that in 2010, this was brought to a consolidation of all of them, whereas before, whenever we would vote, we had to vote on an individual one throughout. So it would take us 6 or 7 board meetings to go through the whole batch of insurance programs that we did have. And this was quite a discussion for a few years in order to come up with this format resolution and so forth like that. And it really has served us well, because as a board, we could see all of them together, and then any questions that we would have would be easy enough to answer, rather than going through them all at the different time periods. So thanks to the whole group who's done that. It's good to see that this is still a good practice.
All right, we move to a vote on this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this resolution carries. Thank you. Now we have another one here. This is the 9th on our Part B, 2014-2015 District Self-Funded Group Insurance Rates. And Mary's going to take the questions on this one. Do we have someone to read this?
I'll take it. Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District Number 271 sets the monthly premium rates recommended by the district insurance consultant for the district self-funded group insurance programs for the 12-month period from July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015, per the attached memo number 2. Number 1 here is health insurance premiums for 2014-15 were approved by the school board on March 18th, 2013 as part of a 2-year plan to coincide with the 2-year timeline of labor contracts. The 6% increase is 1.5% lower than medical trend. Number 2, increase the out-of-pocket maximum for out-of-network only to the limits allowed by IRS regulations. No change in deductible per IRS regulations. Number 3, increase dental insurance premiums by 3%, which is 1% lower than dental trend.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Again, on this one, there's not a whole lot to say. You previously approved the medical insurance rates, but what I'm bringing forward, really, that's a change, is the dental. So that's the added thing that's been added to this resolution. It's the same increase that we did the previous year.
Okay.
And at this time, I would recommend approval of the resolution.
Questions, comments? All right, we move right to the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Mary.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Now we're down to number 10, which is the last one on our Part B, and that is consulting services agreement, Teamworks International.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District Number 271 approves administration entering a consulting services agreement with Teamworks International, Inc. to facilitate a school board session regarding the establishment of board goals for the 2014-15 school year. The cost for this service is not to exceed $700. The date of the session is still to be determined.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right, the reason this one is here is primarily because I had asked the superintendent about, we had spoken in our last meeting about goals. Perhaps we could expedite the process by having a facilitator. I know that the facilitator that we used from Teamworks for our retreat was, that particular quote was for that retreat. And so I just wanted to make this cost available to everybody so that we knew what we were potentially spending. Long way around explaining why this is here. Yeah, Director Bennett.
Yes, so we have the dates of session to be determined. Do we have any more information on that, or are we still looking at late May or something, or?
It appeared that all board members were able to attend on May 17th. We had explored April 11th, and that did not work for several people.
Those particular dates are trying to match up with the facilitator as well. So.
So I guess the question is, do we want to wait until May 17th to continue on our goals, or do we think we progressed far enough just by ourselves and we could have another study session and finish it without a facilitator? If anyone has any opinions on that.
Yeah, Rick?
The opinion that I would give to that is if we were going to wait until May 17th, what I would like to do is either as a group have another study session to sort of complete it so that way we have more information to give the facilitator, or have our superintendent review committee maybe meet, if they can, and put together a draft of possibilities so that way we have a somewhat working document in the meantime. Because otherwise, it seems like the year will be half over. The year will literally be half over before we get to this. And so, if we could continue the conversation in some form ourselves, just so that way, when we get to the facilitator, we can refine it further, that's what I would personally like to see, instead of just waiting completely.
Yeah, Nellie?
I just want to say, I was thinking about this past weekend, and, you know, one of the questions that we had during our study session, or during our time when we were working on goals, was, you know, what happened with the goals that were brought from the board last year, those priorities. And, you know, one of the reasons why we finally didn't get anywhere was because we were always waiting for those big chunks of time before we could actually meet with our facilitator. My question is, Superintendent, we're working with Teamworks right now. Do we necessarily need to work with Dennis, or is there anybody else from Teamworks that is also available to work with us at a different date, since he's not available?
For this important task, I recommend using Dennis Cheesebro.
Same, okay.
Any other comments? Yeah.
And just to clarify, these were for the 2014-2015
Correct.
board goals.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's board/superintendent, but we want to get the board
Right.
district goals put together before we.
Right.
I just want to go back to what Director Oliva was saying about us having a conversation between now and May 17th. Is there any way we can have that at the next study session or something?
As far as I know, there's nothing that stops us from
Okay.
using a Saturday, a Tuesday.
Okay.
We can have these conversations anytime we, the board, want to.
Because it'd be nice to, when we're done with that session with Mr. Cheesebrow, that we're done and everything's finalized instead of, well, now we got to do this part. And now let's start with the superintendent goals before you know it, it's October. So, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and I would favor that approach too, because there was some clarification and consolidation needed on some of those. You know, there was a bit of duplication and repetition on some of them that we could probably within ourselves clarify.
Yeah.
And set up a little more, at least to condense those 3-4 pages that we had.
Yeah,
Let's do that.
personally, I think we made good head start at that meeting, and there's absolutely no reason that we have to wait. The board has to wait until the 17th to speak. We can look at our schedules right now and see what works.
I would also agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would prefer to do it that way, too.
Okay, all right, so, try and expedite things, I can look at my calendar here, I know that we have,
The easiest would maybe be just one of the Monday study sessions that we already have on the calendar.
yep, the next open one is the 21st of April.
How about we work with your assistant, Deb Bunkle, to
Sure.
work that out and schedule something?
Okay,
Just
See what
casually,
fits
that's what
agenda.
the 5th Mondays of the month
The
is
fifth
for,
Monday?
you know, as to pick up any extra stuff that you want to
One
do.
more meeting, right?
You're right.
okay, so we're all in agreement that we
Administrative
can get together, somebody has to buy some good munchies, and we'll hammer this out some more.
Okay.
Okay, all right,
Deb, did you have? Miss-
yeah, do we,
As a third Monday, or do we just establish it, and that's not possible?
What are we looking for, a friendly amendment to the motion or
yeah,
something?
probably friendly amendment, and then where it says date of session to be determined, we can pencil in, April 21st? Does that work?
Is April,
No, two different things.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is the Teamworks.
This is a teamwork thing. That deserves an action. The other one would be a motion to establish, to have a study session on the third Monday of April.
So this stays as stated, and then we need to,
A new,
or now we could establish Saturday, May 17th as the day.
Yeah.
Instead of saying to be determined, we can
Right.
say Saturday, May 17th at 10:30 a.m. is the time.
I think we all agree on that.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah. So we're going to hold off on the specifics of the May 17th timing, or are you, is that the time that he's available?
That's the time we'd like to lock in.
Okay, then let's do that, handle this, then we can have a motion for our,
Okay, who made the motion? They have to redo it.
I amend my motion to include the date of the session to be May 17th.
At 10:30 a.m.
Who seconded it?
me, second.
Let's leave the time to be determined. I thought you said May 17th.
Yeah, May
yep,
17th.
May 17th.
May 17th.
You're gonna have
I was doing the second for you.
Oh,
So we need a time, and 10:30.
Okay.
okay,
Wow, it's
so 10:30.
Since I did the other one, I was doing this one second.
Good job.
Okay, so we have an amendment, a second. All right, so all those in favor of this consulting appearance, the Teamworks appearance, there you go, for, scheduled for May 17th at 10:30. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Does that take care of,
So I understand you approve the ability to make a contract up to $700 for a meeting on May
May
17th at 10:30.
10:30 with Teamworks? Right, okay. There you go, we struggled through that and got it there. All right, now we're looking for,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
I move that we designate the evening of April 21st as a study session to include as a topic board goals and superintendent goals.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right. I think we've had conversation. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, April 21st, that's the third Monday in April. And we'll further digest the board goals in preparation for our May 17th Teamworks. All right, that wasn't so hard. I better move my phone or it'll buzz the microphone. Okay, now we move to board member reports. Who would like to share?
I guess I'll go ahead and go first.
All right, Dr.
Well, just to touch on a few things that I did. Let's see, I went to Washburn. They had a school dance, and it was the first one they've done ever, apparently, or they haven't done them before, which I was surprised to hear, and it was very successful. My kids had a blast, and I guess, the saying goes, if it's too loud, you're too old. I guess I'm now too old. 'Cause it was definitely too loud for being there, but the kids had a blast. I've gone to the preschool dances and now the elementary school dances, and the elementary schools are fun, but there's nothing cuter than seeing 3-year-olds doing the chicken dance, so, but it's still pretty good. So that was fun, and this last Saturday, went to, several of us board members, we went to the basketball game to see Kennedy play in the championship, and that was really good. I haven't been to a high school basketball game since I was in high school. And it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of good times, and it's kind of funny that everything seems to be changing around us, but you get to a high school sporting event, and it's like this could be 1985, and everything's the same. The kids still do the same chants and all that fun stuff. So it was a lot of fun.
Director Leva.
Sure. I attended the Community Education Services Advisory Committee, CSAC, meeting, where they discussed a birth to 3 program initiatives, and after-school safety and security recommendations and legislative updates. Also, we had earlier this evening our Youth Advisory Committee meeting, and we had middle schoolers today, and they gave us a lot of great input and insights, and what I'm hoping to do is aggregate all of that information together and have a more clear report for the board next time, because I only had 15 minutes to prepare today.
Anyone else? Director Steigoff.
Okay. I attended the parent engagement Saturday morning that several of us were at. I also have visited Pond School, visited with some of the staff, and joined a classroom of early learners there and got to join them for their snack time. And that was on St. Patrick's Day, so I got to join while they were coloring rainbows with pots of gold. And I saw some other little learners in the building doing a treasure hunt thing, where the leprechaun had left green sparkly stuff for his little trail for them. That was very cute. I also attended Valley View's Family Academy, where that night the information was reading. I went to the Oak Grove Elementary first grade music program, the Eensy Weensy Spider. One thing that I was very impressed with there, they also had times where the students had to read, and now these were first graders. And we had some first graders that were reading really, really, I thought very well for being in first grade. They're well past their, reading by third grade level there already. So that was pretty impressive, the kids that took turns to read. The Special Education Community Advisory Committee also met. The conversation there was mostly about the new super committee for community engagement as part of the World Best Workforce. There was an update on some program moves. Some of the special ed programs are changing buildings, and they were busy planning for their awards banquet coming up in April. So also, everyone, please remember to get in your letters nominating people again. And I also went to Valley View Early Learners for their stone soup on Friday. Saw several of you there. But afterwards, I stayed to play with the kids. I visited both classrooms there and went into both rooms. And the funniest thing is, one little girl asked me if she could see my tongue. So that was very cute. I'm not quite sure why. I was worried if it was blue or something, but it wasn't. So, I also had the pleasure of going to the Kennedy girls basketball and riding a student bus 3 nights last week. And it was just a great event. Great to see so many people turn out for the team, and especially Saturday, see all the students that turned out. And I got to tell you, I rode the student bus 3 times, and they're the most wonderful students. They're polite. They thank the bus driver when they get off for their ride. They thank the adults on the bus for being there. The nicest kids, and it was a great experience. Thank you.
Director Sorrell?
Well, just to continue that the happy thoughts about our students in the district, although some of us can't dance like others, you know, or go to the dances, you know, there's so many musicals and so many concerts that we have going in March and April that the viewing public should definitely take advantage of it. We recently went to, we witnessed over here Scott Sealing, speech teacher from Jefferson Kennedy, and the award winners that they had. Some of them will be coming to the school board and doing their one act and a variety of oratorical expertise that they have, and a few of them are going on to national awards, regional awards, and so forth. And so it's always good when we have a chance to notice the excellence that we have as students. I also visited Olson Middle School and Valley View Middle School and talked to some of the 6th graders and watched them as the rollout of the Chromebooks came out. We heard earlier tonight from some of the middle schoolers that it was really exciting to have the Chromebooks and the displays that they have, and talking to some of the teachers, it reminded me of how analog minded I am, because now we're in the digital age and it's just tough to keep up with them. And I can imagine there's a lot of parents that are saying, this is a blessing and a curse, you know, a blessing for the students, but a curse for the parents to have to try and help them understand exactly what they're doing. But an awful lot of them just are appreciative of the fact that they have it, can take it home, do so many things with their speeches, with their essays, with whatever they're doing, and then they have the opportunity to go further than just to do the assignment. And so we're gonna probably see some really interesting results in the tests and in the future once the 6th graders and everybody else has another year under their belt. So thanks to the tech department for doing such a good job of the rollout.
Director Corman?
Yeah, well, I attended the Hillcrest Community School Science Fair and had the chance to see some of the wonderful, creative things that the kids had made, and you know, the air balloons and the volcanoes, and interesting to see the guinea pigs and to realize once again that the guinea pig that might be the pet for a child can turn into somebody's food too.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And I also went to the Oak Grove Elementary and had a chance to see part of the musical, the 4th grade musical that they had, you know, pieces. It was pretty cool. And I toured the building as well, and also got some information about the gifted and talented programs there. And
Great.
that was it.
Yeah, Maureen?
Well, I guess I did a lot of the things that others have mentioned already, but one thing that I'll beat you to is Director Bergstrom and I participated in mock interviews at the Community Education Building last Friday, and that was a real treat. To see how people are, you know, English language learner adults are doing so well, and they have such aspirations for themselves and their families, and it was just a blessing to go to that, I thought.
I agree. I'll try and run through these quickly. I was also at Valley View Elementary for Stone Soup. The ones at my table were, I think, excited to see that I crunched up my crackers and put them in my soup and kind of made it into a paste. Also attended a PTA meeting at Olson Elementary. Was fortunate to be able to attend the mock interviews at our adult literacy program, getting these students ready for their employment success. Really was a blessing to be there, to see the look on their faces, and to see how they interacted with me. I assume the interaction was the same as with me at all the other interviewers, but they seemed generally excited and interested to get that feedback from us. Also attended the State of the City address, and it was very unique this year. There were some students from Hillcrest that created a mural, and then a couple of the students, as well as Mr. Shulo and some of their supporting staff, came up with that mural and were up on the stage and got to show that off. And that was really neat. There was a little video incorporated in the State of the City address, and just the change from last year to this year seemed to be a lot more focus on collaboration, a lot more mention of our schools, which I think are a huge part of our city, if I might be so bold. The parent information at Kennedy was after our legislative forum that took place here. That was very interesting to see, both of the legislative forum and the parent information over at Kennedy. Let's see, and I wanted to say thanks to Director Oliva, who was the chair of the Youth Advisory Council, who met right before our meeting tonight. We were in the Oak Grove Media Center. It was interesting to see all the information that came from those guys. You just have to start that conversation just a little bit, and then it starts to flow. So it's interesting to see what those guys have to say. Also, it was a lot of fun at the championship game down at the barn at the University of Minnesota. It's been a while since I've been to a game there, but you're right. It was high energy, high octane, and we had the lead until the last minute of the game. So those girls played fabulous. I do want to make mention of the way the students behaved. We sat right next to the students. In the student section, they were very polite, very courteous, well-mannered. So all you folks out there wondering what your kids were doing at that game, they behaved. They did a good job. And there was a parent advisory meeting, I believe, that in between the last board meeting and not. And Tom and I were there and listened in on all the good things that are going on for the Bloomington Richfield Parent Advisory Council. That does it for me. Superintendent.
Thank you. I'll supplement the chair's report on the State of the City meeting. The theme was the art of creating community, and that was one of the reasons why they really focused on our schools. And the theme of the mural that Hillcrest put forward was Artful Community, a takeoff on their Artful Learning program. So that was really good. I'm on the Normandy Community College Presidential Search Committee, and we're still in progress of finding candidates for the chancellor to consider. So we're in that process. As far as tomorrow, the Metro Alliance, which is an association of MNSCU institutions, is meeting here in this room at 10 o'clock. And the purpose is to talk about the statewide longitudinal educational data system, which is also known as SLEDS. A key reason why they're holding it here is that we're helping organize that event. A key speaker will be Dr. Heisted. Participants in this event will be the University of Minnesota, the Department of Employment and Economic Development, the Office of Higher Learning, MNSCU, Normandale Community College, Hennepin Technical College, and the Department of Education. So it's going to be quite a few institutions participating in this event tomorrow morning. And we continue to track work going on at the legislature. This week, the education policy bills came forward, and it's being considered now, and we're dissecting what those mean for our school district. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent. Move to the other portion of the agenda. Anyone have anything else they want to add in? Otherwise, we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, all right, we're done. And we can do a quick change over here for our
Change the graphic.
study session if anyone has to go to the bathroom real quick. Monday, March 24th, 2014. This is a school board study session. Tonight, we're going to be working on policy review. Part of what we do as school board is to go over the policies, the district policies, make sure that they're current, make sure that they're understandable, that they make sense. And this evening, we're going to start off with some of our 200 level policies. First one is the formulation of policies. How do we make them?
Vic, you want me to jump in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Superintendent.
Okay, one of the ways the board speaks is, with one voice, is through policies. Right. The board has 100 policies, approximately 100 policies in place, and they're all on the district website. They're divided into 9 major categories. And tonight, we're gonna focus on category 200, which is the Board of Directors policies. That's the category title, Board of Directors. There's a 200 series. Within that 200 series, there's 6 policies. We're gonna start with policy 208, and Debunko has made you copies of that, hard copies of that policy. Because one of them is a current policy, and 2 is administration's recommendations for revisions, and they're major revisions, as you can see. I'll walk you through policy 208 first, the current policy as it stands. You see there's a purpose statement and a general statement of policy. And you can, I'm sure all of you have read that. You can see now what the administration is proposing for first reading of this revision. It starts off with a change in the purpose statement, and it says to define how the board fulfills its responsibilities for establishing and maintaining board policies. That's the purpose of this policy. And this will show up on the district website next to policy 208, the number. This will be the referencing information to that policy. This should help people find whatever they're looking for when they're looking up policies. It states what it's for. Then under the general statement, you can read that, what it says. The board will vote to establish and maintain policies. Maintaining can mean deleting, revising, and updating. And policies will have 2, at the minimum, a purpose statement and a general statement of policy. And a policy does not need regulations. Regulations are administrative guidelines for operationalizing a policy, and regulations do not need board approval. That's the general statement of policy, and then what follows is board procedures. And we thought this was important because it talks about who can initiate a proposal for a new policy or to maintain an existing policy. It talks about the process for doing that, and what my role as a superintendent is well, if somebody wants a new policy, or I think there's a need for a new policy, I will make the draft or recommend to maintain existing policy for board action. So I'll take that over, and if I'm uncertain of the need for a new policy or need to maintain a policy, I'll bring it to the board for discussion and direction. Does that make sense so far? And the board actions shows first reading, second reading, and a deletion only needs 1 board action. So you don't need to go to the first and second reading. Deletion of existing policy can just be motioned by a board member, seconded, and voted, and it could be deleted. Everybody follow that? And the number 4 is the temporary approval of a policy needed in case of an emergency or special condition. I didn't put down, we didn't recommend frequency. I think it's premature to recommend how often we'd be reviewing and updating our policies. I think the board should go through a series of policies before making that determination to see how much they can actually work on during a year and over a period of time. At the study session for the board goals, we talked about reviewing policies every 5 years. I think we should go through a few policies to get a feel for what it's gonna take to do this work. And then the board can come back and either embody that in this policy as far as how frequently the board reviews policies after we've gone through a few. So,
sense to me. Questions, anybody? Now's the time to ask them. Yes.
From my perspective, I like the fact that it states what happens upon repeal of a policy, because that was always a gray area before. We never knew if it took 2 readings or not. Just keep in mind, an amendment would still require 2 readings.
Okay.
And you're right, this documents current practice.
Or any questions? I'm trying to take notes and.
So just to confirm, if there's no discussion I hear about this tonight, this will come to the next board meeting as a first reading, correct?
Yes.
And everybody is seeing the current one and then the proposed revision, so you see the change.
Can I move on to the next one? Go ahead, move on. Let's move on.
All right?
Okay, if not, I'm gonna move on to 2A.1. And again, there's 2, the current one would be the one with red font, and, no, the current one would be, the other one would be just the 208. The proposed revisions is the one with the red font, okay?
Yep, ours isn't red, but
Oh,
it's
yeah. It's
got
not red.
that green up in the corner.
Ours is just
Right.
faint.
Okay, as you can see, the proposal is to change the purpose statement, and the suggested purpose statement is to read, to establish a process for formulating and updating and deleting regulations. It's a good reference line for the website. The general statement is, regulations are guidelines on how administrators will execute the related district policy, and states some policies do not need regulations. Proposal for formulating new regulations, for changes to existing regulations, and proposals for the deletion of existing regulations will be subject to the following process. Superintendent is responsible for ensuring that the regulations are formulated, updated, and deleted as needed. Superintendent will decide if a policy needs a regulation. Superintendent will inform the school board of new regulations and updates and deletions of existing regulations. So my role is to take what the board promulgates as policies and to determine how we will operationalize the policy. Yes.
Question.
Yep.
The superintendent will decide if policy needs regulations. Is that, obviously in conjunction with administration or something like that, you would, just say that you're the ultimate, the responsible party to determine whether there's some regulation. Sometimes might we say, I think this needs regulation,
That's fine.
you know, and then that input then comes to you, but it comes as an individual suggestion, and then
Right.
then discussion is held.
And this will be brought to the next board meeting for a first reading.
Are we subject to any MSBA regulations?
Subject to,
MSBA regulations? Because I know
MSBA
there's mandatory policies, but are they mandatory regulations
yeah,
as
we'll
well?
identify which policies are mandatory, and mandatory would mean they're required by the state to have.
Mhm.
So I'll identify if they're mandatory.
Well, there are mandatory policies, ones that are required by law. They also belong to the MSBA model policy thing. You don't have to adopt their model policies. Legislature has said in some areas you do need a policy, and it's up to you what kind of policy you would adopt.
The difficult part in policies is making them line up with the letter of the law.
It can be, and oftentimes it's also whether they line up with other policies.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, any other questions on this one?
In here, it's, since it doesn't say that the board can create regulations, it seems like we're saying the board can't create regulations. Do we want it to say, we want to include in there, like we did in 208, that regulations can be created by the board or the superintendent, but identify, or do we not need that?
The board can always create a regulation by vote, right, David?
Yes, they can. You might want to put it in there, but yes, the board can always do that.
Okay. All right, I can add
I mean,
something.
yeah, 'cause it just seems like, in the absence of saying it, it seems like you're
Sure.
saying that you can't.
Okay, I'll add it.
Historically, the board then has got into administrative control of regulations and operations. And so it's kind of determined that we can offer suggestions to the administration for regulations. You know, maybe this should be included in a regulation, like we did the boundary policies, of which everybody was aware when we talked about transfers and different things like that, you know. And you know how long that took to come up with what it is, and we'll be getting into that again, I'm sure, later on with another policy. But just to make regulations or guidelines of how administration will execute the related district policy. Regulations are the guidelines, we can always, as David said, suggest or even maybe create regulations if it needs to be.
So maybe we leave
Typically,
it out.
just,
Yeah.
it's the rules by which they operate, and we view it at this, and then the administration takes care of that. But
Yeah,
I
well, that-
guess,
yeah,
I don't know if
okay.
we need to say it, to put in there that the board can create regulations when the superintendent will decide if it is responsible for ensuring regulations are formulated, and superintendent will decide if it needs regulations, so on. I guess, comfortable with that, and, you know, and without us getting into where it actually says the board can create regulations, because I think that really muddies the water in terms of policy versus regulation versus whatever.
That makes sense, so I'll retract my statement. You leave it as is.
And it's worth mentioning that at any time, if we need to make a policy, we can hammer one out, we the board.
I'd like to move on to policy 202. Remember I told you there's 6 policies within this category called Board of Directors. Policy 202 is titled Board Elections, and it shows why policy 208 is needed, because the current policy 202 doesn't have a purpose statement and doesn't have a general statement of policy. And that's what's being added, proposed to be added to that policy. See what I'm doing?
Yep.
The purpose is to establish the election of process for board members, terms of office.
Description of responsibilities.
Right. And the general statement, qualified voters shall elect board members at large. Election shall be held in accordance with prevailing law.
I have a comment about this policy 202. Number 4, board officers, letter A, where it says that the superintendent will call for nominations and act as a, what is the
A
word?
convener.
A convener, yes. And my suggestion is that we follow the recommendation from MSBA, which is also established in the document, the first meeting in January, that says if the most recently selected chair, the person elected chair last year, is still on the board, that board member should call the meeting to order and run the meeting until his or her successor is selected and qualifies. If the most recent chair is not longer on the board or is not available, the most recently selected vice chair, if the board has one, clerk or treasurer in that order should be asked to call the meeting to order and run the meeting. Otherwise, the board must select a different member to open the meeting and proceed over the election of the chair. Anyway, a little bit going down, there's an MS 123B 143 that says, at no time should the superintendent act as a chair. From this point on, officers who are selected by the process just described to serve until new officers are selected will be referred to as acting officers.
Yes, the MSBA has recommended a different procedure than you have, although their main concern was that the superintendent might be voting as a board member. And that's why they have the ban against the superintendent acting as chair or voting in anything.
But this says convener,
I
not
know,
chair.
I know, but they still have their procedure set up, it just as Nellie had read there. don't think you're violating the law by having a convener, who's not voting, but MSBA has a different procedure because of that concern.
And I have spoken to a couple members from other districts, and they have suggested that, we follow that same recommendation.
And I think maybe after the last election, we would have been down to
Yeah.
the board picking somebody there, but,
As it turned out, I was the
were you the,
highest ranking
you were okay.
yuckity yuck. Yeah.
The challenge, excuse me, the challenge is this, that in this situation where you were the ranking officer, you were in a position to run the meeting, yet you were a candidate for the position. And that's the challenge.
Which is an awkward position.
And the two remaining, you could have two remaining carryover officers, being the clerk and the treasurer, both vying for the seat of chairperson. So who would, really, they shouldn't be the ones facilitating the election process.
Well, that's why it was done ages ago.
Right.
I'm not saying that, I still think you could have acted as the chair of the meeting, even though you were running to become chair. But that's why it was done, was so there wasn't any appearance that favoritism amongst candidates.
Right, it
And
would
it's
put him
only
in
for
the-
one of the officers anyway, because then the chair is elected, and the chair is the first person to be elected, and then that's the person that will run the rest of the meeting anyway, so it really doesn't.
So I guess I'm open for conversation, but it's just, what I'm looking at here when I read this, it's just the convener, or the person that starts it off and gets us to the election of the chair. And then as soon as that position is elected, the chair takes the gavel and off he or she goes.
Yep.
If we made it explicit that the convener would not vote, would that help?
Well, we know he cannot vote.
I can't vote.
Yeah.
I can't vote.
Mr. Chair, I think sometimes because of the structure that we have of somebody calling the meeting to order, the Pledge of Allegiance, yada, yada, all that stuff, then we have the swearing in. If the swearing in was done immediately, but you can't have that before the meeting is called to order. You can't have the swearing in, or could you?
Swearing in at the meeting is sort of
That's done
Formality.
before, yeah.
And
a
that's,
ritual.
Right.
and that's, yeah, that's just a formality. I mean, we've already signed the documents that said that we've accepted the office as the first of the year. Remember doing that. So then we're actually, legally responsible or whatever it is at that. So when we have that first meeting, then,
Excuse me,
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
Superintendent.
I've studied this, the convener could be also termed election officer, whatever, but the role of the convener is to be unbiased and neutral in the election process. And that's the reason why we give it to me as superintendent. I don't vote, I'm neutral and unbiased, so I just call for nominations and I just facilitate the election of the chair. Because the presiding officer could be a candidate for that seat,
And often is.
and often is, right.
And I think that would lead to bias, because you're already sitting in that chair. And if I'm the old treasurer and I'm also running, I think that would just be unfair to the person that's also running, to be running against the person sitting in the chair.
I'll go with Tom since Harry spoke. There you
Then
go.
when the problem we would have is that we would have a policy that is in direct contradiction to MSBA's policies or guidelines. And, I mean, when we did our training, they were quite clear that they don't want, the superintendent should never be calling or convening the meeting, because they're not members of the board. So they discourage the practice completely, and so I don't know if it's a good idea to put this into our policy when they're discouraging it.
Well, if we look at the flip side of that conversation, who would be convening?
This is why we need to get a student board member who would be excellent at convening this.
Well, the recommendation from MSBA doesn't call for any conveners anyway. It's the board members themselves that take the responsibility of this.
You know, Tom is right, it's going against the MSBA model policy. He's not right in the sense that the superintendent is not a member of the board, because the superintendent is, although a non-voting member of the
Yeah.
board.
Yes, correct.
And-
Thank you.
And yet, we have all the other things that we do ahead of the time where we elect officers, which has to be a board member in good standing, that would be conducting the initial portions of it. If it happens to be, and the chair and the vice chair are not here anymore, it happens to be an officer who is there, but like you said, the perception that the treasurer or the clerk is going to be the new chair. Now, how does our organizational workshop play into this, where we actually, in a straw vote, elect a particular person who's going to be the chair, the vice chair, and so on like that, so it becomes, you know, a mere formality when we get into the board meeting, the actual board meeting, go through that.
And I don't mean to tell you you have to go along with the MSBA model policy. I mean, you don't. But that is their policy, and they have reasons for it. I mean, the other thing you could do, I'm just throwing out other options, is the board could elect a board member as a convener.
Well, that's what we do in typical caucuses, political party caucuses. They select a convener who then holds election of officers and then has it replaced. That could be discussed at our organizational workshop. I mean,
And then we could maybe even recommend that a person trying to be a candidate for chair, we maybe wouldn't say we would have to elect that person as a convener, but, you know, in the back of our mind, we'd say, okay, so someone who isn't going to be the chair should volunteer to be the convener.
Or one of the three people that aren't running for anything.
Yeah.
Very well, you know.
Is there any precedent, recent precedent that anyone knows of where a superintendent being the convener has caused any issues?
No.
And I don't think this is about the issues. I think this is about following the policy.
But it's just a recommended policy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a,
Well, yeah,
Law.
but they're basing this also in the Minnesota statute 12(3)B. That's where it's coming from for MSBA.
Yeah, superintendent,
We have a bewitching hour of 8:30,
yes.
so we have 2 minutes left. How about we carry over this to discussion at the board
Yeah.
meeting?
Sure,
I think that's wise.
We'll do some more research on this, and
okay,
it's fine. Okay?
all right.
And
Right, so we got through 208, we got through a portion of 202, and we're gonna need to talk about 102.
yeah, and that's easy. We can cover that at the meeting.
Mr. Chair, we don't need to recess and then reconvene after a closed session. To do this, we'll just postpone this until another.
I'm not sure what you're doing. Are you coming back to a?
No.
No.
We're cool.
Okay.
This ends the conversation, right, on this?
Study session.
Yeah,
We'll
that's,
conclude.
we'll bring it up again, in another meeting. Yeah, we are in 601, is that it?
Yep.
There we go, no, I'm sorry, we are closed.